Hello, welcome to another episode of Showboys. My name is Mike, and I'm joined tonight. We're just having a little duo cast. It's me and Nick. What's up, Nick?
What's happening, Mike? That clock bell just like gives me anxiety.
I know, right?
I feel like I just died.
Yes. If only we could like invert our cameras to be upside down. That would be amazing. But yes, we're here. It's another Thursday. We're one episode closer to episode 100. Can't believe it.
Creeping along.
Yeah, man. 7 more episodes. Well, I mean, 6 if you don't count tonight.
It's so weird that there's like technically the the yearly anniversary of the podcast, but then there's also like these big milestone episodes which are like
Yeah.
offset from any sort of. I wonder at what point like they would ever align. Like the 1000th episode is on like the 10th year or whatever it is.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm sure somebody who's
Who
good
likes
at math
math?
out there could figure it out.
That
Um,
that darn math.
yeah, man. I'm really excited for tonight. We're gonna be talking Stranger Things season 4, part 1. Really not a fan of these naming conventions and split seasons. But I have a theory about that actually my boss and I talked about today.
Ooh.
The one and only Gino. We had a little
Oh, the one and
conversation.
only. Love Gino.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. But before we get into anything, we got to thank our top tier patrons, Tim and Yusuf. Thank you guys so much for your support, your continued support. You guys have been patrons for since we started it, and it's been several months. So thank you so much, and everyone else who's out there supporting us on Patreon. We appreciate you as well. And if you're interested or want to learn what Patreon is, even you can head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/showboyspodcast. Go check it out, and if you feel so kind, please sign up. If not, we're just glad you're here. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment. We are live streaming, so we can read your comments live on air, like this one. Jordan saying, "Hey guys, you never sent me the invite link to join." Well. Psych, just kidding. Wish I could make it. Have fun. We will, and we wish you could have made it too, buddy. That would have been a fun time.
Maybe another time.
Maybe another time.
Another season 4 of Stranger Things recap.
Yeah. I feel like that might happen. But yeah, comment along. Let us know what you thought about the show. Jump into the conversation. It's always fun interacting with you guys out there. Yeah, dude. Stranger Things season 4. What'd you think?
I really, really like this show. But the way they like you were saying, the way they handle the season and the lengths, missed opportunity on top of just like annoying or just extra confusing. It's just so excessive, and they could do so much more to make that so much more fun.
Yeah.
Like I don't like we talked about, like season, then movie, and then do it like the actual release. That would be cool.
Yeah,
that would be so out of the box too.
We can get into that. I would love to dive into that. Jordan says Mike Courtney and Scarlet Thread greater than Eddie Munson. I don't know about that because Eddie is pretty spectacular. But I mean, I guess I was too at some point. I've lost my spectacularness, but I don't think Eddie will ever will. Yeah. So before we get into our epic pitch that you and I kind of tossed around about what they could have done here with this, let's talk about this new trend of splitting seasons into parts and releasing them at different times. So I was on the side of thinking like, they might still be filming stuff, like doing post, like, putting the finishing touches on these last 2 episodes, Stranger Things. We are coming off COVID / are still in COVID. I don't know. Will we ever leave COVID? I don't think. So I was like, maybe it's just like a practical thing, right? Like they couldn't finish these last 2 episodes to release them all at once, but they wanted to get it out there because it's been what, 2 years? Maybe close to 3, I don't know, but it's been a freaking long time. And they've been teasing season 4 for like 1.5 years. Like we got I think it was, I don't know if it was the intro to an episode, but the intro to Hopper being in
Yeah.
like that whole scene of him working on the rail yard or whatever. I don't think it was the intro to Hopper in the season, but the scene of him first working on the
Yep.
railroad track, that was a teaser that was put out like a year and a half ago.
Well, that was at the end of. I thought that was at the end of season 3, wasn't it?
No, at the end of season 3, there are Russian guards walking through the prison. They stop at a cell and they're like, "Oh no, not the American," and then they like keep walking. So
Oh.
everyone's like, "Oh, it's Hopper."
Yeah, yeah.
But they released that
Yeah, the
snowy
teaser,
rail
right?
yard
Okay.
teaser like a year and a half ago, and everyone's like, "All right, sweet, it's gonna happen soon." And then they're like, "No, dude, that's got to hold you over for so
That's all
long."
we got done.
Yeah. So I was thinking like, okay, maybe they couldn't have finished. They weren't able to finish these last 2 episodes. So maybe they were just like, here are 7 episodes we have finished. Here's part 1. Enjoy. We know Ozark has split their final season into 2 parts. And so far, I think those are the only 2 shows that really do it. I think La Casa de Papel / Money Heist, if you're, you know, watching the dubbed version, they release their seasons in parts, but it's also a foreign show. So I don't know if maybe it's just like that's what they do over there type of thing.
I think more shows do it than you think. Because I feel like it's more and more common, especially with like cable television. I feel like they do that naturally with their seasons because
Yeah.
This Is Us does that. New Amps, like all the shows that my wife watches, New Amsterdam does it. Like you said, Ozark,
Yeah.
Attack on Titan does it.
Well, they definitely have the mid-season finales and they take like a month break on cable TV, but I'm talking like strictly streaming service
Oh, okay. Yeah.
like content. Really, Ozark and Stranger Things are the only ones that really come to mind. But I wonder if it will become a trend because this is what Gino and I were talking about today. Shout out Gino. He brought up the fact that people hop streaming services. Whenever their favorite shows come out, they sign up, they watch their show, and then they deactivate or drop Netflix, let's say,
Yeah, yeah.
because they just wanted to watch Stranger Things. So Stranger Things is over. Maybe this is a way to hold subscriptions for just a little bit longer, for just another month before people drop the service until another show that piques their interest comes out.
Especially strangers, like Netflix would be
Yeah.
prime for that because they release everything at once. So
Yes.
yeah,
And yeah, and they're the most expensive of the services right now. So I would imagine that's probably it'd probably be interesting to look up the stats on like which streaming service is like intermittently used, like signed up for and then dropped a month later or whatever.
yeah.
I wonder if Netflix would be up near the top due to the cost of, maybe people don't want to spend like $18 if they're not watching something every month.
Hulu's definitely the furthest from that structure and definitely the most able to allow people to jump off and come back on because
Yeah.
everything's all there at once. And even Stranger, like that only works so long because Stranger
Are you
Things,
talking
like,
about Netflix?
yeah.
You said Hulu. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
But Stranger Things, even then, like they can only buy themselves like a month or two
Right.
because someone could easily just wait and then watch it
Yeah.
in July here when it all comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, but at least holds them for 2 months, I guess. That
Yeah.
is like the plus.
I don't know how much I agree with that theory, but I just thought it was an interesting
Yeah.
theory that I didn't really think of before, coming from like a strictly like business
Yeah.
finance standpoint, I could see that being a reason. But let's talk about our idea of how we could have totally reshaped the way series and movies and streaming services and theatrical releases we could have changed the world, Nick, if only
Yeah.
they would hire us.
Well,
Only they would hire us.
I mean, there's examples of these ideas, elements of this idea, but it's never fully like full circle in what I think is in our mind in terms of like something really cool and different. Stranger Things is perfectly set up for it because there is a season 5. We had a very normal season like part 1, and they have these mega episodes, and the only thing they're missing really in my mind is like a theatrical release alongside the Netflix release. That would have just been awesome, just like
Yeah.
a movie experience in the middle of like 2 seasons, the finale to a season. And The Last Kingdom completely finish its series and then is going into a movie to continue the story.
Mhm.
Peaky Blinders is going into a movie, but I think they're going to return as like a different series. So there's definitely people playing with these elements, but I feel like so many more could be doing, especially the fact that more and more people are starting to do the parts. They're starting to do some creativity when it comes to like shows.
Yes. So I'm here. I'm looking at the episode lengths here. Every episode in season 4, part 1, is at least 60 minutes long, and pretty much all of them run maybe 10, 15 minutes past the hour mark,
Yep.
which is fine, totally cool. Uh, what we kind of proposed amongst ourselves was having a 6 episode season 4, because episode 7 is 1 hour and 38 minutes long. Episode 8 is 1 hour and 25 minutes long. Episode 9 is 2 hours and 30 minutes long. So we kicked around the idea, release a 6 episode season 4, then release episode 7, 8, and 9 as a trilogy of movies, slap them in theaters, and then continue to wrap up your story with the 5th and final season back as a show on Netflix. And it's not like that format. You're kind of seeing Marvel toy with that. Like, I'm not kind of. You are seeing Marvel tell stories with characters that are in their movies in these Disney Plus series. They're continuing the MCU story and plot as a whole, moving it forward through series. This would be different because it's like the same characters, the same singular story, shifting from a show format on Netflix into a movie trilogy in theaters and then back into a show format on Netflix. And it's not really out of the realm of possibility for Netflix original content to end up in theaters. They do have very limited releases of Netflix original films in theaters. It does not happen very often. And when they are released theatrically, they're usually only available to see in theaters for like 2 weeks, and then they show up on Netflix. Um, an example, I actually saw, I paid extra and went to the theater and saw Army of the Dead, the Zack Snyder zombie heist movie. And I'm glad I did, because that was an amazing movie to see in a theater on a huge screen with the, surround sound and all that stuff. Um, so it's not impossible for something like this to happen. Um, Obviously they didn't do that, but I mean, what do you think? Do you think that would have been like cool to like if they actually came out with that without us having this conversation, like what would your initial reaction be?
I really think it would be awesome, and I think that's the reason I initially was thinking about this because I was like, because I was looking at I posted the links and Stranger Things right before as it came out, and I just the fact that they're all over an hour, like that's ambitious. Like I think usually like the last, I think either Game of Thrones, I think it was Game of Thrones that had like the longest like series episode. Um, Maybe something else for the longest time. But then this just came along, blew everything out of the water. This season alone probably ranks as the top 10 of the, of all of them.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's like a 2.5 hour episode, like to me, it just would have been really like they should have highlighted that, right? This is
Yeah.
something you just look up because you're a nerd or you're curious or whatever. Or if there was a little buzz around it because everyone, there's very long episodes, it became a thing. But they should have led with that and said like you said, 3 of these are going to be in theaters this summer, right?
Yeah.
And on top of the fact that it's an 80s period piece and people used to go to theaters a lot more, and that would have been fun in the summer to go with like your friends to go
Yeah.
watch this show that's all about doing that kind of crap.
Yeah.
So there's just so many layers there where I was like, well, I hate that this is a sidebar conversation about the show. If anything, makes it a little daunting for some people, but they should have led with that in the PR and just been like, boom,
Yeah.
we're gonna do 6 episodes here in June, and then come this July, we're gonna release 3
Yeah.
movies.
Like and you could even spread it out like
Yeah.
man, my speaker, I need to unplug the speaker.
Tap, tap,
They
tap,
could have done a cool thing where because obviously these episodes are already filmed, right? They're already edited, slapped together in post, like they're packages. They could have used those to alleviate the gap, of not having Stranger Things between season 4 and season 5. Like say season 5 comes out in summer of 2023, you could have episode 7, movie 1 of the trilogy come out in August, movie 2 come out in October, December, spread it out even further, and then movie 3 come out like 2 months before the premiere of season 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it would have been a very meta thing, like you're saying. I didn't even think about that. It's just like that encapsulates like the whole
The vibe.
like yeah, I mean that's what you did in the 80s and the 90s. Like that's what they did in this
That's what
show. Like
yeah,
they literally
arcades
went
and
to
just
like
all
what
that
was it,
stuff.
Back to the Future or something? They actually
Yeah.
went like to a theater, saw a movie. So
Hot
yeah, it would have
summer
been
nights, big monsters kind of lurking
yeah, come
around.
on. And it's like
It's a
the
thing.
production value already on the show is pretty much theatrical anyways. Like
That
it's
was my
not like
next
it
point.
it probably would have cost them much more money to convert or upgrade or whatever. I probably sound like an idiot because I have no idea what I'm talking about, but
Well, I mean, it might look that good because it was already shot on, film quality, and the production value is way up there. And
yeah,
that's another reason why we're not just picking a random show that should do this, right? Because obviously you could say a lot of shows could do this, but this one has all the pieces to do it. So it's just like,
mm,
why not? There's a lot of shows where they're just not built for long episodes. They proved me wrong because I was a little questionable about like the hour and 38 one. I'm like, isn't that just like
that's
2 episodes?
yeah, it's pretty long, but it didn't
So
feel like that long.
that's what I mean. I watched it and I was like, wow, like that in my mind is 1 episode. Like that's crazy that they, back my same conversation about movies versus like series, like they just made me watch a movie and tricked me into thinking it was like an episode of a show.
Yeah, maybe they listen and they're like, we got to make Nick, we got to get him back into movies. So we're
Well,
just gonna make all these like basically short movies.
right, and the cherry on top of that would be then make Nick go to the movie theater and watch
Yeah,
a movie. You
yeah,
got me.
Exactly. Oh, what's up, Amy? She says Sherlock did long
Wings.
episodes like that too. Yeah, I heard. I've never seen Sherlock. I've heard it's a great show, but I've also heard that they do have lengthy episodes over there. Thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. Hope all is well. Glad to have you in chat tonight. Yeah, it's like now that we're
They're all
talking about
90 minutes.
huh?
They're all 90 minutes on Sherlock.
Oh wow. Yeah, dang. That's every episode's a movie. That's crazy. Remember when movies were like 90 minutes long?
I miss that.
Yeah.
The
Now all
fact that we've
movies are
slipped into this like 2+ hour all the
yeah.
time, like those were the movies that my mom would never watch with my dad and I because they were too long. The only
Yeah.
ones she would watch with us are the short ones like
Like
that,
normal movies.
normal movies, and that's what normal and kids movies are still normal in that
Yeah.
aspect. They rarely go 2 hours. But yeah, I saw it coming and I was just like, man, we're just in this vortex of just let's all make 2 40 minute 2 hour 40-minute movies.
Yeah. Um on the subject of episode length though, uh I too was a little weary of the episode length. Uh but I hardly found any like filler feeling
Yeah,
moments in these episodes that are over an hour.
yeah,
I think that I mean, there may be like a scene here or there throughout the 7 episodes. Like, I'm not saying a scene here or there every episode, but I'm sure there's something within these 7 episodes that probably wasn't necessary. But I would say 90 to 95% of what is on screen in these 7 episodes is a vital piece of moving the story forward, which is what kind of, I mean, it's impressive considering it's a show, and a lot of shows that are under an hour will have like 2, 3, 5 minutes of filler in an episode. I'm just like, why did we even do that? That was totally not necessary.
yeah. And, I mean, and that's I mean, every one of these episodes is a movie. It's very compact. It's very end to end, and there's no filler in there. Now, the only thing I would see in terms of filler is some people just like dislike certain of. There's basically 4 story arcs in this season.
Yeah.
Basically, there's people that just say there's an arc or two that are filler and crap and boring or something to that effect. So I guess depending on who you are and how much you invest in the show, there might be like if there's one of those arcs you didn't like, I didn't really have that feeling. There's maybe one that's like the weak one, but even that wasn't to me at all near filler.
Yeah. Amy says, I honestly had no idea they were that long. I was so invested in each episode. Also, weren't you saying on your stream the other night that like when you were feeling under the weather, like that's when you started the series and then you just like slammed through all 4 seasons while you were couch
That's the
ridden?
way to do it.
Am I remembering correctly or am I thinking of someone else? Because that would be even more impressive that you watched all 4 seasons, including like these mega long episodes in season 4. Um, but yeah, I thought maybe before we get into the reacting and like breaking down of stuff, what did you think of? Oh yeah, I binged it all in a week. She says
That's insane.
that is, you are correct. That is impressive,
That
like
is.
very impressive.
Should get a star for that on whatever platform it's on. They should give you an achievement. There's another idea.
Yeah, real life achievements,
They need achievements in Netflix.
dude. That'd be awesome. But also probably depressing. Like, I've started thinking about that. That's a whole other side tangent, but like playing a game for like 3 hours long, which is something I love doing, but I'm getting up there in age, and I'm like, could I have used that 3 hours doing something more productive? Yeah, probably, but who cares? But like having achievements in games, and if they added them to Netflix and stuff, I'd just be like, wow, that's kind of depressing.
Yeah, she kind of echoes that with her comment.
Yeah, she goes, the find something better to do with your time achievement. Yeah, exactly.
That'd be cool if they were kind of like meta and shamed you. So like that would be better.
Maybe you should try going outside achievement.
The
And
CEOs are like, that sounds like that isn't a good thing to do. And like the devs are all like, nah, this is the way. Like
yeah.
we must shame.
They channel their inner Mandalorian. This is the way.
Subscriptions have actually gone up for how meta our achievements are.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Instead of
wouldn't
like
get it.
the are you still watching, they should do that. They should be like, hey, maybe you should go outside.
Go outside.
When's
Come
the
back.
last time you've drank water?
Oh yeah. Drink water.
Do
Go
you
grab
do
a
you have
snack.
family? Maybe you should check on them.
Take a shower.
Yeah. And then Amy says TikTok does that BS. That's why I'm not on TikTok. I will
Yeah,
be
they do.
shamed about my time wasting.
Yeah, they know when you've scrolled too far.
Yeah. But yeah, before we get into the like reaction and breaking down of things, what were your overall thoughts here of season 4?
So good. It's fantastic. It's definitely the best season in the series. But it's not fair. That's not fair to say. It's not a fair assessment because especially seasons 1 and 2 were very different than seasons 3 and then especially 4. Because 4 just I mean, it's always been a very polished show, but the fact that they had I think it was really the horror elements that really just kind of took it over the notch and was like, yeah, this is like movie theater quality stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I loved it. I mean, it was competing there with Game of Thrones on my watch, and Erin was like, let's watch it, let's go. Like she's usually not like that.
Yeah.
But like Stranger Things, all about it because it's good.
Yeah. For those of you who may be new or just tuning into Stranger Things and haven't been cognizant of our Summer of Thrones we're having. Yeah, we're all I'm watching for the first time Game of Thrones, and Chad and Nick are rewatching for however many times. Chad's probably like his 30th time.
It's better on the second watch.
Yeah,
Promise you that.
watching Game of Thrones, and we have an episode recapping each season of Game of Thrones like every other week. So, in between those episodes, obviously we're watching Game of Thrones, and I had a similar like experience here. Obviously, I had to catch up or make sure I was watching Game of Thrones season 3 before our episode last week. And I was, to be honest, I was only like mildly interested to watch season 4 of Stranger Things.
I could tell because you were putting it off.
Yeah, like season 1 was amazing. And to be honest, due to the length of time it's been, I kind of don't remember the specifics of seasons 2 and 3. Like I know the big things that happened, which season they occurred in, kind of up in the air. I know Billy was in season 3 and he was awesome.
I mean, basically you could boil it down to is it William? Who's the best friend? Anyway, one of the 4, he's possessed by
Yep.
he's basically possessed, and then in season 3, basically Billy's possessed.
Yeah.
And that's
What
just how I
happens
kind
in
of
2
generally
again?
recap them.
I forget. What happened in 2?
They get kind of distant from him. He's obviously like somehow connected to the Demogorgon, right? As we think at the time. And they lose him in the Upside Down for a long time. They're trying to get him out. His mom does the whole light bulb thing in the
That was in
living room.
2?
Yeah.
Oh, dang. Anyways,
Pretty
so see,
sure.
I was like, up in the air. Like season 1, amazing. Seasons 2 and 3, they were okay. Hard to hold up against the amazing debut season of the show, I think.
Yeah.
And then we had a big gap in between season 3 and 4. So I was just like, oh, okay, cool. I'll get around to watching it. And then we're like, no, we're going to do an episode on it. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got to get around to watching it now. I started it on Sunday, maybe. Finished it on Tuesday.
Yeah,
like as soon as like the mild interest quickly turned into like a
Mm-hmm.
feverishly addicted to the show, could not stop watching. Um, and I have to agree with you. It's, in my opinion, the strongest season so far in the show. And man, it's just I was kind of surprised at the, I mean, people who had watched it and the cast and everything, they were saying like this is, the darkest and like most horror, filled season so far. And I was like, okay, well, like every show says, hey, this is the
Yeah.
darkest or scariest or the funniest season yet. And it's like, okay, yeah, right. But then, just watching the first episode, I mean, you got just the opener, which was like they had to put like a trigger warning
Yeah.
up. Um,
It's like a
yeah,
week of or a week after, something like that.
they were not joking. Like this is the darkest and probably scariest. It's still not like super scary, but in terms of Stranger Things, this is definitely the scariest season so far. Um, and
Ames is
yeah,
correct here,
I was
though,
all
for
for
the
it.
correction. Thank you for that, Ames. Will did go missing in season one, so that was part of the magic of season one. Then, yeah, maybe two. I forget quite a bit of two, other than he's primarily possessed later in the season.
That's right. Is two must have been where they had to do like the pool thing in the gym, and then
No, that was with Billy.
oh dang. I love Billy. Like
Yeah, he was
Billy
a good
was one of
character.
the best characters. But anyways, yeah, season 4, amazing season. Um, and I'm excited to like get into the nitty-gritty details here. So let's move right in. And I think what I've enjoyed what we've done in the Game of Thrones episodes where we're kind of um, we're over the recapping. We don't need to tell you guys what happened because if you're watching this episode, you've already watched the show. So you don't need us to tell you what you've already seen. But instead, what we want to do is we'll go through story arcs or particular characters, try to hit all of the big moments that we thought were impactful or important, and break them down. How they made us feel, what we think they could mean moving forward in the show and the series. So with that, let's I kind of want to go over the new characters that were introduced in season 4. There were quite a few. I jotted down some of the ones that I thought were the most notable, maybe played the biggest, had the most impact with our, series regulars and the plot and whatnot. Are you cool with that? You want to talk about those new characters and then see where we split off into from
Yeah,
there?
yeah, for sure. I'm curious who these new characters are.
All right. So first we gotta talk about my favorite addition to season 4. The new Billy, I would say, is Eddie Munson, the leader of the Hellfire
Oh,
Club.
yes.
Dustin and Mike's high school idol. Dungeons and Dragons game master, dungeon master. I don't even know. I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, so. But
Yeah, I
the
think
the
either works.
DM Amy should chime in here. She's a D&D player, I think. But were you going to say something? I didn't want to.
No.
No, okay. Yeah, Eddie Munson. He is played by Joseph Quinn, who actually I found out he plays a character in Game of Thrones. Plays Connor in season 7, maybe.
Mm,
Uh, uh, Probably a minor character. I haven't seen him
yeah.
yet. But he's also in Dickensian. He plays Arthur Havisham, and he's in the movie Overlord, which was a fun little J.J. Abrams flick, if I'm remembering correctly. But I love this character from the moment he like made his appearance on screen. He's just so charismatic. He's funny. He like is the apple of Dustin's eye, which I found like hilarious, and that kind of played into Dustin and Steve's relationship, and like
That was so
Steve
good.
kind of being a little jealous, and Eddie kind of being a little jealous. And I don't know. I just thought like the addition of Eddie was great. And the Hellfire Club as a whole, I thought they were all there's still a kooky cast of characters, that's for sure.
Hellfire Club was cool, and that's the name of the first episode. and just the way they play off of that and the times. And my least favorite character, and this is a new addition, though he is kind of minor, but it's like the lead jock. It
Yes.
was almost like a parody how speechy he was.
Yes, I loved it. It
It
was
just like
so great.
it was basically a parody of like how basically movies
Like,
portrayed
yeah,
jocks in the 80s.
yeah, every sports movie, like he
Oh,
was
the
the main
nuts.
character.
Couldn't stand it, but the fact that it was like more so like mocking it is why still liked it. But I was like, man, this guy when he riled up the town, I was just like, give
Oh
me
my
a
gosh.
break.
So funny.
Like someone
Yeah,
smack this dude.
he made the list too. That is the character is Jason Carver, and he's played by Mason Dye, who had a role in the Teen Wolf show as Garrett, and he also had a role in the show Bosch on Prime as Tom Galligan.
Predictable jock
Um,
prototype,
yeah,
game
exactly.
says.
His speeches though, like
God.
hilarious. Like I got from the moment he comes on in the pep rally and he's giving that speech, I'm like, okay, this guy's gonna end up being like a big butthead. But like, he's got the pep rally speech, and then he's got like his speech to the team
Yeah.
during the game. Then he's got the speech to the team again, like when they got to find out who killed Chrissy or whatever. But like exactly like you said, when he gives the speech at the like town hall meeting, it, like just shuts down the meeting from the police, and they just kind of like let him.
Gets the mic like right down the middle of the aisle.
Yeah,
It
yeah, and he's
just
he just tells all these adults like what they're gonna do, and they're just like, yeah, and they go do it. Like, is a great trope that they played off right there.
yeah, and I mean the pep rally one though, the fact that it was so self-aware, and obviously as the viewer, you're kind of aware of this from like the outside, but it makes you wonder about how many times real life has skated on that when it comes to like pep rallies and stuff, because he was kind of using like this metaphor for all the terrible tragic things that have happened in the town recently as like a, so because of that we're gonna go beat our opponent's ass and like win the
Yeah,
champion. It's just like that's such a very minor like detail like
yeah,
event compared to the fact that people are like just dying in town.
yeah, yeah, yeah. People are doing
Here's
their
these
best.
deaths. We're
Yeah,
gonna go win a basketball game. Yeah.
right. They're doing their best broken neck lady impressions
Oh god.
from Hill House.
So good.
Yeah, yeah, but also that like that's kind of a thing though in real life. Like
Right.
people again, whole other side tangent that could go on for like an hour probably. Um but yeah, people use sports, like society use sports as a crutch during hard times. You look at like the first game back in Yankee Stadium after 9/11, like how the people reacted, the sports world reacted. Like sports are a thing that, whether I know you're not a fan of sports, I am a fan of sports, but like they're a thing that bring people together,
Oh yeah.
rooting for a common cause. You can like have that like brotherhood, family, like bond relationship with other fans, and it's just entertainment, right? Entertainment, something for you to pool for. So I get that, but like also it is
Not from this
even
guy's perspective. Like that's the
right.
thing.
No, this guy is totally just like being a scumbag trying to like win a championship.
Yeah.
But even so, like because that scene is kind of how society plays out with sports and real life events. But like seeing it kind of in this light in a show kind of makes you be like, yeah, that is like the way we use sports as a crutch in society is kind of silly. Like really, who cares about the Yankees like right after 9/11? Like we definitely have bigger things to worry about than if the
Yeah.
Yankees are going to win tonight. But I mean it's that distraction from what's
Yeah.
going on, right? But it just kind of makes you take a step back and be like, that is kind of ridiculous how we do that. And they just made it even more ridiculous in the show.
Rip Barb.
Dude, I know. Dude, we
He's
had
back.
so many awesome cameos this okay, 2 awesome cameos this season. But yeah, you took one off the list there with Jason Carver. Probably I would say this guy's my third favorite character from this season, and that is Argyle. Hilarious. The pizza delivery driver.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. I don't think I even ever paid attention to his name
I
because
also love that his name is Argyle. Like,
yeah.
that's amazing. He is
Reminds me of
played
Silicon Valley. There's a character called Guilfoyle. You know, just like one of those really
Guilfoyle.
off the cuff like names. So, you know,
Yeah.
they sound like gargoyles. Like both those names do.
Argyle, it just that makes that the first thing that popped in my head were dress socks.
Oh,
Because you got like the Argyle pattern or whatever. But yeah, he's played by Eduardo Franco, who was in Booksmart as Theo, and American Vandal, which was a Netflix original, like parody mockumentary, as Spencer Diaz. Next, this guy was my second favorite character, and for obvious reasons, and that's Dimitri,
oh
aka
yeah.
Enzo.
Enzo, my
He's
boy.
played by Tom. I'm not even going to try this last name. We're just going to call him Tom W. Waschia. I don't know. That's
He's
probably,
German.
yeah, he's German. But he is Jaqen Hagar in Game of Thrones,
Yes.
the faceless man, one of my favorite characters, even though he is only in like 2 episodes so far that I've seen.
Love him.
I love, dude, I
100
do love him
characters, and
though.
you're like, this guy right
Yeah,
here.
he's
He's
on
good.
screen for like 10 minutes. He's my favorite.
Oh, it's pure gold.
But yeah, I was glad to see him show up, even though you spoiled that for me. Um, Regardless, great character. Then of course we have Peter Ballard, who is played by Jamie Campbell Boyer, and he was Caius in the Twilight Saga. But this is number one, the Vecna himself.
Yes.
And he's just so unsettling. Like,
The actor in his not Vecna or
yeah,
Vecna.
as Peter, like
Yeah.
as one, so unsettling
He
and
reminds me
so
of
creepy.
Batman Begins Scarecrow. Like
Ooh,
that's the kind of vibe
yeah.
I pull out of him. Like kind of dorky looking. You know, works in a very kind of like structured role, mysterious, like a side character, right? Is
Mm,
kind of what he's on to be, but then basically puts the mask on, right?
yeah.
Scarecrow style, and he's scary.
Yeah. Amy says, did anyone else predict that he was Vecna from really early on, or was it just me?
Just you, because you're good.
Yeah, I was on the fence of his like character alignment. If we're gonna keep with the D&D stuff, like something always made me feel a little uneasy about him. Um, but I was kind of disappointed that he ended up being Vecna. I was hoping he would just be a scoundrel of sorts. Um, because I have questions about the timeline of like what war were they referring to, like his dad returning from
Probably Vietnam.
Vietnam? Okay.
Or wait. His dad, Vecna's dad.
Yeah.
That would have been like World War One, I think. So they said it was like the 20s, World War Two, maybe.
Yeah. So how old is he when he's working at the lab? Like he looks like he's maybe in his 20s.
So okay, so it was World War Two. He's probably born in the 60s, so yeah, he'd be in his 20s.
Okay.
He's probably born in like the late 50s, early 60s, so 80s would put him in his 20s. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, cuz I was having trouble reconciling the time
You have
there.
to remember this is the 80s, Mike, and it was 40 years ago.
I know that's what's just stop it.
I like bringing that up all the time now.
Yes. But yeah, so but after they started playing, like, by the end of the 7th episode, I was like, okay, I like it. It makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
I had issue with that his discourse there, his deposition or
just
whatever you want to call it.
massive exposition
Yeah,
dump.
the massive exposition. I'm just like, it's not stopping. We're just
Yeah,
gonna
no,
hear it
it's
all
like
is
solid
like
10 minutes. Just explain the entire story to dumb people like me. Um,
did 11 really need to know all that right that moment amongst
right before you kill her. You just
yeah.
gotta reveal your entire life story.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Amy says the significance they put on him in Eleven's flashbacks kind of wrote him into being someone significant. I agree with that, yes. Why wouldn't they have talked about such a significant character in her past before if he wasn't a new character? That's very true. It's very true. I do like how they because I that first scene, having 11 massacre every child in the lab there, I was like, oh dang, 11, really? Like, really?
Yeah.
So I was kind of glad that they played it into it being one, or Vecna doing that, and 11 saving the day and opening the first rift to the upside down, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah. It's crazy. Because like Ames saw that. I'm just so naive, I guess, when I watch shows. Like I just purposely stay that way. I don't try to speculate too much because I thought legitimately like, oh, this is just the guy that helped her escape from the lab. He's just like harmless
Yeah,
and
I
doesn't
was
mean
starting to
anything.
get that way, and then yeah, I tried to. Usually I'm pretty quick at picking up
Yeah,
stuff like
right.
that, but maybe it was just like you said, my naive, my just wanting to see the best in everyone.
Yeah,
Just
and I
wanting to
think
be a good guy.
so like by seeing the main like bad monster right in the show being Vecna, I also didn't just because like he was very humanoid like. I I already like built in the story that I was like, okay, he's like an evolution of the upside down. So like he was an evolution of the Demigorgon, where the Demigorgon was just kind of dumb. And then there's like the really big thing, and it was kind of dumb and got beat up. So I just thought this was like the final evolution of the Demogorgon, and I was like,
Yeah,
okay, smarter now, can do all the same tricks but better. Um, so I was like, I just had no reason to believe he was a person. So there's enough thing layered there where it was a surprise.
yeah. She says he seems far too creepy. That is for sure. Like, I totally was on board with that the entire time he was on screen. I was like, oh, this guy's just gives me the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, I think it was cool how there's so much to get into, which we will in a second. Just there's one more character to go over, and that is Angela, who is played by Elodie Grace Orkin, who was, of course, the bully who was so cruel to 11, and then ends up getting smacked in
Oh
the
my
face by
god,
a roller skate. Um, yeah, I hated this character.
she sucked.
The same way that I hate Joffrey, whereas he's just a piece of scum and well acted and portrayed in a way to make you hate them. So I had to put Angela down just because I thought she did a great job. The actress, here Elodie playing this total dirtbag.
Yeah, it really makes you. I mean, you just almost completely feel bad for 11. It's just like that's just sad. Like it's just straight up bullying, like
Hmm.
just face value,
Yeah,
full on.
yeah,
Um, but it also makes you kind of realize like I guess it's still prevalent today, but I feel like the 80s and 90s like it was much more easy to get like some hardcore bullying before it was even really a thing
yeah,
cuz people were getting smacked with roller skates in the face or like legitimately like beat up. It was just different
yeah,
back then. And then just like we have so much awareness of it now.
yeah, for sure. Don't be bullies, kids, because it made me sad just watching that. And I've been on 11's end.
Aw.
Maybe it just brought back some traumatic memories from middle school. Yeah, Amy says, I thought it was an evolution too, speaking of Vecna, until they introduced him. Yes. I
Vecna.
love, now that we got the characters out of the way, of course, got to note the wonderful cameos of Dead Barb and Billy.
Rip. Rip.
Boy, Billy, he made it back. But yes, I loved how Dustin kind of, well, I love how he's like the mastermind and figures everything out, like, and kind of creates the lore of the Upside Down. But I love how he explained the roles of the villains so far in each season. Like the Demigorgon was just like the foot soldier.
Mm-hmm.
The Mind Flayer was like, I forget exactly what he said, but kind of like the first sergeant or whatever. Like he's a rank up, kind of a little smarter, kind of a little badder. And then Vecna's like the right hand man, like the general of the Upside Down army, the tactician. And I thought that was a really cool way of explaining the different monsters we've seen so far and kind of their upgrades and power and abilities and stuff. Which makes me really excited to see what happens in episodes 8 and 9 and then season 5, because we're kind of approaching like, well, what's the whole point of the Upside Down? Like what, like, and 11, the connections, we kind of got the connection there because she was the one that opened it up. But like, why is the Upside Down continually like invading the right side up, the normal, like real world? And what are they trying to accomplish? So if Vecna is like the right hand man, the general of the Upside Down army, like who is like running the show in the Upside Down? Who's the big bad?
I think it's Vecna.
You think? Well, it
Well,
could
I
be.
mean,
I mean, we're coming down.
it
It could
depends.
last
Like,
2 seasons.
it depends. Like, did she just cast him away into this world, or did she create it when she opened the rift? Like, I mean, those are the things. Or did she cast him down into this dimension and then he kind of made it what it was, right? So, like,
Yeah,
I guess those are things we don't know. Where I can't really. I'm not going to try to theorize too much on that because it's a lot of interesting bits they like unraveled at the very end of that
yeah.
episode.
Well, you make a good point, right? Because she creates Vecna. Because before Vecna, before he goes into the Upside Down, one, the Upside Down may not have existed. There definitely was not a portal between the real
Right.
world and the Upside Down. And Vecna was just, he was one. He was a normal person. Well, not a normal person, but he was like, he was, just like 11, like a gifted child here in Hawkins. But in their fight, she rips basically a door in the space-time continuum, creates this new dimension, and pretty much banishes him there, and he becomes this Vecna character. But like, we get clues because Nancy and crew figure out that when they jump into the Upside Down, that that's a frozen period of time
Mm-hmm.
before the like whole series basically transpired, right? She doesn't have her guns, which I thought was hilarious that she's just packing a couple
Yeah.
pieces in her room. But they
Wheeler's got
travel back,
straps.
right? They travel back to her house, and she finds her journal, and it's like the first date before Will went missing or something like that, I
Yep.
think. So maybe this duel between 1 and 11, like, I all this to say, like, I think you could be onto something with Vecna being the big bad, and the whole purpose of the Upside Down invading Hawkins is him just trying to get revenge on what 11 did to him. That
Mm-hmm.
would make total sense. We got some comments here. Amy says, "Can we talk about cameos? Because oh boy, I'm excited." Yes, we definitely can. What was your favorite cameo? Please comment. Let us know. Mick Manhattan.
What's up,
Look at
Mick?
that guy. What's up, bro? How are you? We're
Man,
doing
look at
well.
that profile picture.
I
It's like a
know.
paint. It's like a
Snazzy.
Norman Rockwell painting.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
we could just piece that picture of Mick into the thumbnail tonight,
Yeah.
and it would just fit right in.
Yeah, he's fresh out of
Maybe
the 80s.
Yeah, just put him like right, in the driver's seat of the pizza van down below you, and you wouldn't even be able to tell. Um, glad you could be here, bro. You should let us know who your favorite cameo was here in season 4. And then Amy says, "I can see the latter thought, Nick. The later thought, Nick." And then she says, Freddie, your favorite cameo this season. Do tell more."
They definitely mentioned him. I'm trying to recall if I saw him.
I don't know if I saw him either, but yeah, they definitely talk about Freddie and scare the crap out of Mike's little sister, or yeah, Mike's little sister. But yeah, I think you may be on something there, Nick.
Telling you, I don't know. There's a few details that that need to be confirmed.
What? How did I miss this? Maybe because his face was all prosthetic over and he had no eyeballs. But the actor who played Freddy Krueger was Vecna's dad.
But I thought
Mick probably immediately shut off our stream as soon as I didn't know this. Being the horror aficionado he is.
he's also from Ozark.
No, that was okay.
That's Vecna's dad.
That's young Vecna's dad. She's talking about
the old
Vecna's
one. Okay,
dad who's
yeah,
in the prison. But yes, he is the dumb guy from Ozark who Wendy always talks into giving them money and doing all the dumb stuff. Amy also says, and one of my first thoughts about season was that it felt very Nightmare on Elm Street. Very much. Yes. I definitely see the parallel, especially because they even talked about Freddy. And then, like you said, being old man Vecna's dad.
Yeah, because there's an axe murderer movie that like just came out that they're citing as like the cause, right? That's like the jocks kind of perception of it.
Yeah.
Whether it's movies or like these satanic cults that are taking over the country.
I loved. I mean, you brought it up earlier, but like the whole like D&D satanic panic they do, so great. But yeah, man, I just there's so much stuff to talk about. Where do you want to go from here? You want to just talk like character arcs and the stories that play out that way, or do you want to go through like episode by episode story arc wise? Or
I do like the arc exploration, and really just things that like have to be talked about. I do like my biggest wonder. Lots of D&D feels. Yep, that's the whole. I feel like it's the whole show, but this one really took it up a level. But
I love how they name all the baddies from D&D.
Just
characters.
Vecna now.
Yeah,
it's like, Vecna.
The Mind Flayer, the Demigorgon. Those were like the bad guys their D&D crew was fighting in that campaign in that season. So I always love that.
Yeah, and my biggest I'm always thinking about logistics, and the whole time I'm like, why? Like whether it was when they're in the Upside Down, and basically when they figure out that like there's a portal connection, it really is. I knew that as soon as I saw it on the ceiling in the trailer. Obviously, I'm like, oh look, it tore a portal into the Upside Down. Why was what's her name? The smart girl newspaper.
Nancy
Wheeler. Her friend who died by Vecna. The writer in this season, or her editor.
Yes.
They never revisit the fact that there should be a portal on that road where he died. They only talk about the one in the trailer and the
And the one in the lake
and the
from
one in
the
the lake.
basketball.
That's where it all clicks. I was like, wait a second. They figure out there must be a portal everywhere someone died. So their first thought is to go to the lake to try and get to that portal at the bottom of the lake. There's
I think logistically, maybe because like Eddie was by the lake anyways.
I guess.
But like, yeah, they could have just been like, "Oh, it's one right in the middle of the road that's easily accessible."
Hey,
Or like we could go to Eddie's abandoned trailer where there's all, but that one probably
they
a little
eventually
more
did that.
tricky to like
Yeah.
get in since it's on the roof. Okay, I get that, but like, yeah, we never see the road portal. Talk
Oh,
about potholes! Holy cow!
I know. No road portal. So I was really upset that they didn't think that maybe it's far away. Maybe it's on the other side of town from the lake. Who knows?
Yeah.
So that could be.
Uh,
Um,
I mean, we have some potholes that feel like you're entering a portal to the upside down
oh
here
yeah,
in
your tire
Ohio
does.
in
Your axle
in the
does.
winter. You're like,
That's for
uh,
sure.
whew. Anyways,
Um, yeah, that was a weird thing in my mind. But I'm trying to think what they don't ever go to the lab in this season, right? Like that's all flashback stuff.
yeah,
Because they're out in
the,
the desert now where
yeah,
11 is.
yeah. The only lab they have is the secret one out in like Nevada or wherever.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely like a few locations that I just felt like didn't get visited in here, but obviously the lab shouldn't be because I guess presumably got destroyed, but they never really followed up on that. Kind of
Yeah,
like the state of things, right? Like, why isn't it's just constantly being swept under the rug? What's going on in this town? But yeah, the road portal that always confused me. I like that they rip portals through, and I love the fact that they were basically broken neck style deaths.
dude, the deaths so brutal. Like, and a lot of them are kids, which was even more brutal to see.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've just been on a big like here on Showboys, we like to watch shows apparently where kids get killed brutally.
yeah,
Which I don't know what that says about us. Probably nothing good. But yeah, the death scenes, the hovering in the air and bones just snapping and faces contorting and eyeballs being sucked out. Uh, it's quite disturbing.
yeah. That definitely took it up a notch. Like with that first, like I would see the scene, the opener basically, where there's all the dead 11s basically all throughout the lab. Like that was intense, and I was like, oh wow, it's starting pretty dark here, especially given relevant times. Um, but then when they did that first death, I think was it episode 2 they got to that because they're building up. I like that they did this. They built up kind of like Eddie and like who he is, and then there's this like different side of Eddie where he's just kind of like he's not scary, and he's kind of connecting with this girl that obviously he's had a crush on, and then she's the typical cheerleader in the whole jock realm, and then she has this other side where she's just like a little bit more vulnerable, and she actually thinks Eddie's funny, and like they kind of had a thing,
Yeah.
and that goes south really quick. They didn't let you think about that too long.
Yeah. Yeah. So arc wise, let's start there.
Yep.
We
There's some
have
good
the
graphics that put that in perspective for me because there's 4 posters for the show out there, and
okay.
each one is of a different.
Do you have them readily available? Because that could be a good guide. Um,
Yeah.
I think the first character group arc would be that of the Hellfire Club, Dustin and Mike. No, because Mike goes Dustin and Max.
Max.
And I guess you could lump the jocks and Lucas in there too. But basically you got Mike and Dustin trying to impress Eddie, the leader of the Hellfire Club. Lucas is now a jock, though he is not a starter on the basketball team. Apparently, just rides the bench. He's trying to get in the popular crowd of high school, so he's kind of over the being made fun of and bullied and teased for being a nerd. So he's kind of like floating up to the start of season 4, off screen. He's like floating in between these two worlds of jock and nerddom, and ultimately decides to go take the jock route, which it puts a lot of tension on the friendships here between Dustin, Mike, and Lucas. Dustin and Mike kind of feel betrayed. Lucas is like, trying to make his case, and then you have the frayed relationship with Lucas and Max, which I still am a little confused at what caused that like tension between.
I think. Well, I mean, it was mostly in that she was having a hard time with the death of her brother. Now, I remember he kind of died, and she watched him die.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah,
so I think it was just kind of like that was just hard to deal with, and she's had a hard life from the get go, right? Then this very tragic thing happens, and then they're just kind of naturally growing apart, here in high school, which is also another kind of trope to follow along with.
yeah. But yeah, essentially, like you said, Eddie is trying to supply Chrissy, the cheerleader, with some drugs because she's battling some inner demons, has some inner conflict going on, and she's looking for something to kind of like ease the pain and the anxiety and all that stuff. And so he's trying to supply her with some drugs, and she just like floats up in the air and gets all of her bones crushed in his trailer. I loved the whole like the way Vecna like attacks his victims, where they go in that like trance thing. They start getting these visions of all of the like maybe terrible or hard trying like things that they've experienced that are kind of like shaping them.
My my favorite one that happened was when Nancy slipped into it, right? When she was like they're all going up the rope, right? Up or down, whichever it
Yeah,
is. And they just, the one goes up and it's just her and I forget his name.
Steve.
Steve are down there, and it just seamlessly cuts, and like she goes up the rope and she is not currently present there. And I thought that's just like a cool use of that bad narrator, basically, where
Yeah,
we absolutely have no idea that happens. There's no clue other than when it's given away.
yeah. Um, but yeah, basically like Vecna is tormenting his victims, like playing with his food before he makes the kill, making them relive these painful moments in their lives. And Chrissy's, of course, is with her mom, basically body shaming her, which is sad and realistic. It's crazy that happens. But basically, yeah, Vecna claims his first victim right there in Eddie's trailer. And that sets the whole town ablaze again, right? And Eddie quickly becomes the key suspect here. And that is kind of where this story arc plays out with Dustin, Nancy, Steve. What's Lucas's sister's name? Because she's hilarious.
She's funny.
She ends up joining the crew here. You got Max, of course. Lucas plays a little part in here, and then
That was a cool bit when they did like the parallel game and then the D&D game,
oh yeah,
basketball game, and the D&D game, and like just the music and the way they're hyping that up. That was really cool.
yeah, and both Lucas and his sister are the ones that come through in the clutch and seal the victory. But yeah, Robin's also here with the crew. Amy says Eddie was based off Damian Eccles from the West Memphis 3, which I thought was neat. That is very interesting. I'm gonna have to look more into that.
Lucas's sister is Erica.
Erica, that's it. She says she's a student of Neil's. Wait, like the actress who plays Erica is a student of Neil?
Priya Ferguson. Priya?
Okay, you're 100% gonna have to like clear this up because now I'm in a tizzy because that would be amazing. But yeah, how do you want to progress? She says yes. Are you kidding me? That's so crazy, dude. You need to get her on the podcast, bro. But for real, I'm not kidding. Yeah, this whole manhunt for Eddie consumes this entire character arc and plays a huge part in Dustin unraveling the actual plot that we're seeing unfold.
Because he knows it wasn't Eddie.
Yeah, because I mean, Eddie's a great guy, right? This must be a quote from young Neil. He says, quote, "I'll see what I can do." Dude, can't get my hopes up again just to be crushed. If you know, you know. So yeah, what else happens here on this arc, Nick?
The whole Eddie arc?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of lays low, right? In the first bit here. Really good use, right? I think the peak there was the D&D tournament, right? And then that's where things kind of start turning south because he leaves the D&D tournament to go home, but actually to go pick up what's her face cheerleader to take her back to the trailer.
Chrissy, yeah,
because she needs something stronger. And that's where he kind of goes out of the focal point for a little bit because he just takes off. And we play a little bit of catch up where we pick up on the Nancy story arc. That's kind of how they bleed into it because there's a story, a lot of weird stuff's going on. So she has to get in there and see what's going on. So while Eddie's in hiding, we have the Nancy arc kind of unfolding in the trailer park here as almost like the investigation element here. And this is where we get introduced to the second death in the series. So, a very organic way they went through the story arcs, I feel like, in terms of just how they all unfold. But then, eventually end up in these images that I have here on the screen to where you got the 4 that are out in California doing their thing, which is very disconnected, but 11's out there that keeps their kind of physically location wise closer to 11. Then we have the Hawkins crew, which is the largest one, but they're kind of jumping between the Upside Down toward the end and Hawkins. So that's cool. And then we have obviously the Russia Alaska situation,
the adult story arc,
the adult storyline,
which was hilarious, I might say, at most of the time. Yeah, so Nancy's student reporter assistant, his name is Fred, rest in peace.
Rip.
Young Fred. But yeah, basically we get we learn about the kind of distancing. There may be a rift between Nancy and Jonathan, who are now in a long distance relationship. We see that kind of playing out, which becomes kind of important as the season goes on. Maybe not like super important, but character wise, it becomes a little important.
For some reason, I feel like it's important for reasons we don't know yet because they never really finished that out.
Yeah. Along the same token, kind of, we have Steve and Robin's friendship picking up right where it left off. These are 2 great characters together.
I love Robin.
There's Robin and Steve. Like basically any scene Steve is in is great. Like he just has great chemistry with all of the characters that he interacts with, though. Like he has good chemistry with. And I feel the same thing goes for Robin. whenever she's in a scene, I feel like it's really entertaining, and she also plays very well off of the other characters in the scenes that she's in. So then when you have these both in the same scene and they're like the only people in the scene, great. I love it. I love the Rob and Steve, like the car ride, the conversation on the way to school was hilarious. Um,
Robin and Nancy is really good too because
yeah,
they explore an interesting angle on just like how females might like misconceive each other at first glance because there is this like weird tension whether there's just unknowns, right? Where Robin thinks certain things about Nancy doesn't really think much about Robin, and like just as they work through all these assumptions and they just kind of lay it out there and
yeah,
slowly get to know each other. I thought that was really cool how they had those two because they're super standoffish, or well,
yeah,
Nancy was to Robin.
yeah, for sure. Meanwhile, Dustin has become like the de facto leader of the group. Like I would even say as a whole, like even the people who are on the other side of the states here.
He's
Dustin
always
is
been
the
the one
one
to care to keep everyone connected
that
and like
yes,
driving toward a goal.
yes, that, but also he's always the one that's like kind of figuring it out. Like Nancy does a lot of lifting here in the season too, as, in terms of uncovering the mystery of Vecna and the rifts and things. But you know, also Dustin is right there. They're kind of carrying the workload of understanding and solving the problem. Um, so we find out in this arc with these characters, Maxine becomes a target of Vecna. She you know, is getting the headaches, she starts having the visions. At one point she goes into a trance and we see an interaction with Billy, her brother, and there's some dialogue there about like, you know, I think this started with her visiting Billy's grave and reading the letter that she wrote for him. Because when she has like the actual vision with the grandfather clock and they're piecing the things together, she's like, "Oh crap! Well, I'm gonna die probably in like 2 days, so I'm gonna write everyone that I know and love a letter explaining like how I feel about them." She takes one to her brother's grave, reads it. It's very heartfelt, very touching letter of a grieving sister. And in this hallucination from Vecna, Billy comes to her and he's basically like, "No, like you say all these things, but I really think that you
Yeah.
were happy that this happened, that you wanted this to happen." Again, kind of like toying with her inner turmoil, so to speak, as he's done with all of his victims up to this point. Um, so, along with figuring out who is murdering, you know, who is committing these murders, they now are, you know, trying to find Eddie, like prove his innocence, but now they have to worry about like saving Max and figuring out what's going on because one of their best friends is now under the Vecna curse, right? Um,
I really like the Vecna like switch ups between like the hallucinations because the same thing happened with Maxine and her mom. Um,
yeah, yeah,
because like she's like, oh, she's like at her house. I did think it was weird though. It's like her mom's just there and she's just gonna like give her this letter and be like, don't read it right now in case you know, read it later. And like your mom's not gonna not read it. Like that's the
right.
weird thing.
But also from what we've seen of her mom, like that whole conversation immediately like had me on guard because I'm like,
Yeah.
they've just only shown her like drunk and passed out and like totally uh negligent
Yeah.
parent, you know, like, and
Now
then
she's
all of a
doing
sudden she's
laundry and
like hanging up laundry and being a very concerned parent about her child. And it's just like, that's not really her.
yeah.
But yeah, I loved the, like you said, the unreliable narrator uh, type thing going on with Vecta and not knowing, um, you know, if we're seeing a Vecna vision or if we're seeing real life play out.
Speaking of Vecna, the way they introduce at least the character by name when they're doing the D&D
Mhm.
thing, um, and Eddie's reading the story, and when he drops like the description of who the boss is, and it's clear they all know it's Vecna. It's just like the reaction that like this boss is back. He should have been dead. I just thought that was just like really well played out because like Eddie like he only has one eye and like it's just like a huge blow to them and like they're all very devastated that this is the boss and he's back. That was just cool. I just like that scene.
Yeah.
They seem
Um,
so invested in this D&D run they had
I
going
know.
on.
Amy, is that just how D&D is? Like, is it just you just get super invested? So when the DM's like, "Psych, this guy's not dead,"
Right.
everyone's in an uproar. Um, Also, that would make being a DM like so fun.
Right.
It'd just be like, you thought you were done with the campaign, but
And she says yes.
yeah, a simple yes with a period. So you know her
Yes.
disdain is she used a punctuation there at the end. Um,
No,
that's
it's good how they use that. And that's another thing about Eddie is he has so much fun doing that, right? And that's why it means so much to him. And we later find out in this little bit of dialogue with Steven about how he's not really like that though. Like he's always like he's like apparently I'm the person that just runs away.
yeah.
And you know D&D is where he kind of gets his rise out of
Mhm.
things.
Yeah. They do a lot of good like character building throughout the season. That's for sure. Um, But along the way here, along these characters' paths, we learn that whenever Vecta makes a kill, he opens a portal, a rift between Hawkins and the Upside Down, and this is how. Um, well, I don't. They haven't really explained really
We don't
what
really
is
know the
happening with the portals, other than they're opening and they're multiple now, and it's wherever he makes a kill.
yeah. The way I took that was he's for some reason just trying to create a strong connection and a lot of pathways between them. And then clearly they grow over time. They start off very minor, then they slowly get probably as he gets stronger, he just slowly continues to tear them open.
Mhm.
So for I think he's just trying to bridge the gap between um the Upside Down and Hawkins here with these
Yeah,
kills. So I don't know if he needs like so many. He's gonna like
yeah,
unleash those bat things, which are pretty brutal.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Amy says, "Let's play some D&D." She said, "We can play online, and young Neil, can DM."
young
Uh,
Neo.
we'll see. We'll see if he can come through for me, and then I'll come through for you guys.
Wow.
Um, that would be fun. I've always wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, the plan, the use of the portals he is opening has yet to be revealed, but we can assume it is
Nefarious.
yeah, nothing good. I'm gonna
No, he
say.
just wants to plant flowers.
Yes, but it explains his kills. That like he's
Yeah.
killing to open these portals.
Yeah.
Um, which is interesting because in one of Nancy's visions, we have a flashback to Barb's death, and Nancy just kind of leaving her outside while she gets busy, with young Steven. Uh, and Vecna playing off the guilt of that while barbed while Barb died. While
Barb wasn't
Barb
getting
got
barbed.
barbed.
Yeah. Well,
No, she was getting barbed in another way, probably less fun. Um, but yeah, so that was like my second favorite Stranger Things cameo was the return of Barb Rip. Um, but yeah, it
Barb.
just kind of explains what all these deaths mean, because was it Vecna that killed Barb, or was it the Demigorgon? Is any kill that happens by something from the Upside Down opening these portals? It's not just Vecna's
Yeah.
kills, because
And
I'm
that's
pretty sure the Demigorgon got Barb, right?
yeah, correct.
So
Or or did she just slip into the upside down and then it just kind of took her over? No, yeah, Demogorgon has something to do with that. But what I wonder is that because the other reason I thought um, he was very much an evolution of the upside down was that I felt like in his first two kills he became more complete. So it's almost like perhaps he has been like non-physical form for the past 3 seasons, and then for whatever reason he's finally kind of getting more powerful, and now he's able to actually target kill from the upside down. That was another reason why I was kind of leaning. I mean, which very well could be the case because he could have been banished by 11 and been like almost ethereal, right? And then
Mhm.
he's slowly kind of regaining a physical form back because his physical form isn't by any stretch of the imagination his original form, right? It's not like it's his human body with additions. Like he's been reconstructed from the upside down with all the like tentacles, like the way they're always pulsating in like this region
Ooh,
of him. Like it's
yeah.
just so weird because if you're not looking at his face and you like
Yeah.
look at his neck, like those things are just constantly crawling. It's
Yeah.
just so freaky.
Yeah. Man, you just keep making some great Vecna points. Um,
I'm
there's
onto
a
him.
lot to explore there with what happens between he and
It's so
11,
cool.
which we'll get to. But yeah, like, this whole time, they're trying to figure out the portals. They uncover the the story of Victor Creel, who is
Yeah.
Vecna's dad, um, and what happened at his house, which is where Vecna's like, stronghold is in the Upside Down. It's just the Upside Down of his former house. Um,
I
and
like the
here,
Outlands vibe of it,
yeah, yeah,
floating stuff.
yeah. So they uncover the 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 story from Victor's perspective, who was the dad who was charged with the murder of his wife and daughter, um, which was a hilarious little chunk of an episode of Nancy and Robin, like trying to infiltrate the psych ward.
That was fun. That was a
Yeah,
fun adventure they went on, and maybe people could classify that as filler, but that's kind of in line with what the show's kind of about. They have these like
yeah,
kind
they,
of
they-
harmless missions,
yeah.
right?
They had to get their Nancy Drew on.
Yeah, yeah, no danger. Like I didn't anticipate any danger in that whole sequence, but
Uh,
it was
but
just
they had to
like
get in there and talk to Victor to learn the story and
right,
figure it out. Yeah.
just that
Um,
that detective part of the
yeah,
show, which was
exactly,
fun.
exactly. So they end up finding Eddie after, while Dustin and crew are trying to hunt down Eddie. Nancy and Robin are trying to figure out the Victor Creel stuff. Lucas and the jocks are on the hunt for Eddie because, our boy Jason here was the boyfriend of Chrissy, and he thinks Eddie is some Satan. He's Satan himself, I think he says.
Yes.
um, which he comes to that conclusion after the encounter in the lake where
Yeah.
the other basketball player was Vecna'd right in front of him, and he's like, Eddie is the devil.
I
um,
mean, it though I did at that point, like as much as like I didn't like his character, it is a very rational thing.
yeah,
Because there's been all this weird stuff going on for years, and all
and
of a
he's
sudden you
not
have
friends
like
with Dustin, so he doesn't know what's going on.
yeah, and so that's a pretty rational. He's like after that, it's like yeah, like this must explain it to some degree. Um, yeah, that's crazy.
So the basketball team's on the hunt for Eddie. They finally find him. Um, though Lucas tries to be a bro and like lead them off the track, which you know works for a few.
Lucas is weak this season.
Yeah, he's a sweet boy. Um, they finally find Eddie, Jason, and one other basketball player. I don't remember his name, but poor guy gets Vecna'd right there in the lake while they're trying to get Eddie from the boat. Um, and that's when we get the whole town going into a frenzy, the police like calling a town hall meeting, and then Jason pep talking the town into a bigger manhunt for Eddie, and now Dustin, Max, and Erica.
The parents have a
Because
huddle, so they're like, what are we gonna do?
yeah,
Where are our kids?
all the members of the Hellfire Club, right? Because they're like, oh, look at this satanic cult. They're even called the Hellfire Club.
I love that they had the flyers like just ready to go,
Yeah.
and they're just like passing them out like wanted
Yeah.
posters.
Quick shout out to Mrs. Wheeler and her amazing perm all season. That hair, man, on fleek. But yeah, so the manhunt for Eddie gets bigger. The kids kind of are trying to find him because again he like runs away from the hideout. They're trying to track him down again. They're about to track him down. No, they do track him down. Eddie, Steve, Nancy, and Robin head out to the lake rift to see what they can figure out, see if there is a rift there in fact. While that is happening and they're on the water, the cops are hot on their trail, and Dustin, Max, Lucas, and Erica take one for the team. They kind of turn themselves in, and we get this cool, like, Dustin and Max at the house, like while Lucas and Erica and everyone's being questioned by the cops, figuring things out, piecing things together. And in the lake, we have Steve, Eddie, Nancy, and Robin finding the portal, going into the Upside Down, and just getting ravaged by Upside Down bats.
They wouldn't be that stupid to go in there unarmed.
No, yes, they
were.
would. Also, I love the like minor story arc of Steve always babysitting.
Yep.
Like that was.
And he's just like,
gets me
not
every
this time.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hop in the boat this time.
He probably wishes he would have though, because he gets.
He might not make it.
He gets like upside down bat rabies on his belly. Basically, they're just munching away.
He might die.
Yeah, don't say that too loud. We don't want Chad to cry. That would really make Chad sad.
Oh, Chadle.
We don't want a sad Chad. But yeah, they end up in the Upside Down.
So cool.
They after being attacked and defending themselves from the swarm of bats, a larger swarm approaches, and they're like, oh crap, we need to get some weapons. And Nancy's like, don't worry, I'm packing at least 2, but we got to get to my house because everything in the Upside Down is the same as Hawkins, so those guns should still be there. Let's go.
The reason it's not is a clue that I don't know yet.
It is such a good thing. Like they go and the guns are nowhere to be found, and this is where we find out where she opens up her journal and it's like the day before Will goes missing. So we learn here like when the Upside Down was created, like it is frozen. I'm pretty sure
it's not when it was created.
Do we know that though? Like how soon after 11's fight with 1 did Will go missing? You see, like there's
it could be really close. Thing. I was thinking it was like the point at which the Upside Down made a connection to the right side up.
Right.
Because when he went missing, and like that was like the catalyst that made all that click.
That could. I'm leaning towards it just that being when it was created.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, like when the show started, all the kids were like young. like the deep fake of 11 was like her in season 1, right? So how quickly or like how much time transpired from her fight with 1 or with Vec now, we'll just call him Vec now, and her escape from the lab and Will going missing, like how much time transpired there? I guess we'll find out either in the remaining episodes of the series, hopefully. But yes, nonetheless, the Upside Down is frozen in time in this particular moment, right? Which is not, it's in the past. It is not where they are now. And that's bad news for the crew because they can't get their guns or whatever. But this is where they're like, okay, they figure out that they can, like, while they're in Nancy's house, they can hear Dustin.
It's like
Like,
light sources or somehow
yeah,
this
they can
conduit.
like hear his voice like talking, and Steve's like, ah, Dustin, Dustin, because he's stupid, and he's like, oh, he'll be able to hear me. But they figure out a way to communicate with each other, and Dustin reveals to them like where these kills are happening. That is a portal, like a portal opens. So they make their way back to Eddie's and return to the right side up. And yeah, that's kind of the major story arc here for the Hawkins crew. Um, do you have anything else you want to add or talk about with these guys in particular?
No, I mean yeah, that's a lot going on there, and everything's really kind of tertiary to that.
Yeah,
That I would say is probably the main
yeah.
storyline. It's still in Hawkins, still with the bulk of the characters.
Mhm. And
Um,
they're uncovering like the
Key details.
season mystery, whereas like 11 I think is uncovering the like series mystery, the
Hmm.
overarching story plot. Um, the other thing I guess we should mention is they find out that like music can tie Vecna's targets back to reality, and this is how they in fact save Max from almost going broken neck lady.
Running Up That Hill by
Yes.
Kate Bush.
Yeah. Now I understand the memes.
Aaron was saying how it's kind of like viral on like TikTok and Instagram because people just use that song in the back of their videos now because they just kind of do whatever's trendy. But right now, that song is making a little bit of a comeback.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so let's get back to the posters here and we can dig into let's go with Hopper's story arc because that's probably the least substance of the season.
Yeah,
And we'll probably get through that quickly and then we can wrap up with Mike, Will, Jonathan, Argyle, and of course 11. Um,
yeah.
so do you want to take a crack at Hop here?
Yeah, Hoppers is pretty straightforward. And I was actually a little disappointed. His has so little connection right now to like the main story. Like we still don't really know what these adults are doing other than trying to save Hopper. But um, I thought there was gonna be a portal, right? Trying to from Russia, trying to get back into Hopkins, and more was going on there. But more or less, like he's in prison here, deep in Russia, somewhere
In
in
the
Siberia,
motherland.
in the motherland with the
Yeah.
comrades. And he's stuck. He goes through a lot of brutalness. He's hatching this plan to escape, which is kind of running in tandem with what's her name?
Joyce.
Joyce. Trying to find him, right? Because
Yeah.
she gets this mysterious doll, porcelain doll thing, with basically the old school cut the letters out of the newspaper and paste them in to say sentences. So basically, it's her traveling with the kind of like he's like the CIA guy, but he's
Yeah,
not.
Murray.
With old Murray, he's great in this.
Yes.
Murray's entertaining, but yeah, they're Murray and Joyce are in California with part of the Hawkins crew, um, but she's like going off with Murray secretively to go get Hopper because they don't want to involve the kids. She just has 40 grand sitting in the bank,
Must be nice.
and it's just like we're gonna go save Hopper. Um,
80s were a different time, I guess.
I guess so. So Hopper's having a rough time, but he has this like escape plan, and they do such a good build up here to where you're like, he's gonna escape, like he is
Yeah.
escaping. He's broken both his ankles, so he can get the.
Such a
Um,
brutal, like
I
every
know,
time he takes those shackles off his,
ugh.
I just cringe so hard. I was like, oh
Yeah, and it's freezing, but he's like barefoot with broken feet. I'm
yeah.
like, dude, you're
Ugh.
just running through the snow. You are a champion. I
The
didn't know
things you
I
would
could do
do for
this.
freedom though. I mean, like
I
he's trying
know.
to survive. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, but he gets on the snowmobile. He actually escapes. Enzo's helping him. Great character.
Oh yeah.
Prison guard, kind of just in with the smuggling crew. They're smuggling in peanut butter because peanut butter is the jam from America. So he's got all these connections. So he knows this pilot who can get Hopper out. So the whole idea is for
Yes,
Hopper to
Yuri.
escape. And with Yuri, not Murray, Yuri,
Great character too.
great character. And I love how they switched them up in the costume because I could barely tell.
Yeah, no, they did a great job.
And even Uri makes that joke to him. He's like, Uri, Murray, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Great character.
I loved this arc, even though it's detached right now. Like, you get the continuation from season 3, of course.
Right.
You find out where Hop is. Like, he's in Russia. Russia was, investigating the rift under the mall, trying to make it, open it more, I guess.
Open it from Russia, though.
Yeah, like to open it from, like, basically make like a wormhole to get to America from Russia. Is from like what I'm understanding. They have, the Demigorgon, of course, that you see at the end of
Imprisoned.
season 3. But like there's a lot of character growth from Hopper here.
Yeah.
He's obviously contemplating a lot of life decisions. And
The big one there is like he realizes, before the fight with the Demogorgon, that like ultimately he just brings all this pain to the people that he loves and cares for. But his face when Joyce shows up at the prison to like save him, like he did it so well on, like he wore it on his face that like he's like, no matter what, like, he realized that was wrong, that was incorrect, right? It's not him putting himself by these people causing harm to them. Like through all this craziness, like here's Joyce and Murray
Yep.
in the prison in Russia rescuing him. Like how does anyone pull that off?
Right.
But they do. And here he is finding himself
Yeah.
between a Demigorgon on one end of him, and then here's
And
Joyce and Murray.
his love, and freedom. Yeah, exactly. There's just tremendous growth here. And I also like the insight. You get a little more in terms of what happened to his daughter, why she was sick. He was in Nam making Agent Orange. Like, like that was just like all this stuff happening with Hopper was just so heartbreaking because, like, at his core, he's a great character, someone who cares immensely for the people that he's around and is a protector, right? And like even in his dialogue and thought process while he's in prison of like, like at this point he's kind of like accepted this as penance, right? Like he's protecting Eleven and Joyce because he's not around them to cause them pain and suffering, right? So even in this, he thinks he's protecting them in a way, because he's like, well, I'm here, so like they can't be suffering because I am not inflicting stuff on them because I'm across the world, right? But you're right. Like as soon as Joyce shows up, like you can see the switch flip and like
he's back in it.
The redemption, of Hopper and overcoming those emotions and those, thoughts of that were just wrong, it is very cool. And like I loved how like he's just like the seasoned vet with all these other Russian prisoners like, oh, you guys have no idea what's happening. Like
crazy American.
Yeah, but like, he hatches the plan to I mean, it doesn't work out for any of the other prisoners, but he has a plan to face the Demigorgon. He knows what the Demigorgon is, and they are blown away in shock and fear, as they should be. But yeah, this arc wraps up with, Joyce and Murray reuniting with Hopper, right? And Enzo makes it, so hopefully, Enzo will be continuing on with the crew at least in episodes 8 and 9, but I would love to see him finish out the series with the boys.
The only thing I'm confused about is so demigorgons are essentially velociraptors, and they can't get out of like pinned in areas that have barbed wire fencing. Like that's
Yeah,
it. Like
they
that's all
they
they need.
they can't climb
They can't
apparently.
climb, but he can leap like parkour over walls, across walls to just like smack someone's head off.
Yeah,
So
but he can't like parkour vertically.
I guess not.
Like, yeah, there's a little plot armor there, a little
Yeah.
barbed wired
I was like, why
plot
these guys
armor.
just got a demogorgon chilling, and how
Yeah,
they get it back in the room, you know?
right. Unless they just like shoot it until it like listens. I don't know.
So bizarre.
Very valid point, but you just gotta suspend your disbelief, Nick. Come
Yeah,
on,
I'm
man.
fine. I'm
You're
good.
just being way too much of a critic here.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger thing was Joyce and Murray kind of just sneaking into a
Uh,
Russian prison
dude, they're
in the
so
middle of
funny.
Russia.
They're so funny. Like, especially when he like the black belt scene
Yeah,
on the plane with Yuri.
he's
All of a
basically
sudden
Neo
Murray's just
though.
like actually can
He's
fight.
clearing out guards at the
Yeah.
prison and just like black
But
belting them
I
down.
love it. He like knocks out the pilot and Joyce is like, "You idiot. Like nobody knows how to fly a plane."
Okay, another weird gripe. So, in the prison, right? Like she's super hesitant. Like no, Murray's super hesitant to hit a bunch of switches to open like the doors or whatever.
But when they're
But in
flying in
in
a
the
plane.
plane, he's the first thing that goes through his mind is I'm gonna sit down. I'm just gonna start flipping the
Yeah, yeah.
switches on the top of the thing. It's like,
Surely none of these work the engine.
I mean, surely the plane is flying, it's running, it's fine. You just have to steer it. And
Mm,
he's just like, switches.
yep.
Boop. Um, it's like, oh, I shut the engine off. Go figure.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, so that's pretty much where Hopper leaves off. They're still in Russia, but they're reunited. So hopefully they can find their way back to old Hawkins, uh, preferably before season 5. But that leaves us with the final arc. I know there's 2 images, but I mean they're kind of one singular arc here. 11 tails off there towards the end, but
Yeah.
out in California we have the Byers family, Will, and 11, and Jonathan and Joyce, all living in California now after they relocated. As I would if your house was like the center of a lot of upside down action. They head out to California. 11 is learning and she's in school, but she's also the target of a lot of bullying, like a lot of bullying. And Mike, he's traveling out to California to spend spring break out there. And basically, 11 lost her powers right at the end of season 3. So she's still kind of dealing with that, which lends into some of the bullying she receives because she tries to do her 11 thing to
I guess we have to remember she isn't
Angela.
like the most like socially inept, right? To
Yeah,
like
I mean she was
function.
like a feral child.
Yeah. And I was just like, don't do it. And she just tries to like force do
Yeah.
something. And I was like, oh my God, that's
That's
not gonna help
no,
at all.
that's definitely gonna make it worse.
Oh, been there,
And
seen this.
that's
That's not
exactly
gonna
what
work.
Will is thinking too, right?
Yeah.
Every time she does
He's
anything,
like,
Will's just like, "No, don't. Please don't. This is not gonna help." Um, but yeah, eventually, as episodes transpire, we have somebody from the military trying to track down 11 once these murders start happening in Hawkins, thinking that she is the cause of these upside downness, right? So the military is trying to get 11, and our pal Dr. Brenner and his sidekick, who I cannot remember the character's name, they after Brenner's sidekick is questioned by this military leader, he's like, oh crap, I got to go find L. So they go and find 11, and he is like, hey, you know, sorry about all the stuff, right? But you got to trust me. We got to get you to the secret lab. We got to get your powers back because um, you're the superhero we need, right? So he takes 11. John, Mike, Will, and Argyle are kind of, on house arrest, basically. Um, and this is where the arc kind of splits between Mike, Will, John, and Argyle trying to find 11, and 11 being taken to the new underground secret lab to try to restore her powers. Honestly, this was my least favorite story arc of all of the arcs.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know why. Like, I was just mega annoyed by 11, like all season. I don't
She
know.
she
It's
had a
just,
similar issue in like season 3 when like her and her boyfriend are just super
yeah, it's
teen
just like,
angsty.
dude, that's exactly it. My biggest pet peeve is when stuff gets too teen angsty, and she is so full of angst. Which
Yes.
I get it. It makes sense, but I just found myself being annoyed repeatedly. Like, I'm just like, okay, I get it. You're bullied. Okay, you're trying to fit in. You can't. Okay, I understand. You're kind of on the rocks with Mike. He's kind of being a butthead. All right, can we quit it with the?
But Mike's a huge butthead.
He's a big butthead.
He and it was the same. See, that's the thing is, maybe that is a weak point in this. Is like it's like a continuation of the same issues they had in the last season, being
Yeah.
boyfriend and girlfriend, just
Now,
excessive teen angst.
right. When she splits here and Brenner comes back in the picture, though, um, even though the teen angst is still there, it's just now like filtered and aimed at Dr. Brenner instead of Mike.
Yeah.
um, I found this a lot more palatable because
Yes.
it's majorly progressing like the overarching story arc of the entire series. Like we're learning more backstory on 11. Of course, we're piecing together that whole massacre scene from the season intro. We're introduced to Vecna here. We learn there's just so like, and he's trying to like help her remember all these things because somehow that's going to give her her powers back, which I still haven't really like tied together how that happened. But yeah, well, what did you think about these characters? The meaningfulness of what happens with these and like how it played out.
I mean, like like all the teen angsty stuff aside, really getting once 11 gets into the lab, it kind of starts to click a little better. It takes a while to get going, because there is the two doctors, and I completely forgot about the nice one, from like season 1, who's
Yeah,
like
I'll
trying to do.
find his name because he's important.
Yeah. So, I mean, this I liked it once he got in the lab and it started getting going. I like the whole
Dr.
like,
Owens is
yeah,
his name.
Dr. Owens.
Yeah,
The whole like it's not a sleep meditation chamber, but it basically is. And then they
yeah,
just like imagery into her. That was cool. I did like the slow unfolding of um, her going into those memories, them being both the actual memories, but she's somehow, she's like presently reliving them, which was cool because I felt like her and Vecna would have conversations that didn't happen then, particularly. It's almost like Vecna knows, but he doesn't. It was really weird, the way that kind of played out, but I liked their interactions, and things and that kind of piecing together. On the other end of it, while this is like they're just, I don't know, the whole California vibe, they got going on with the four of them just kind of rolling around California. You got the two like stoners, you got
dude,
the
Argyle, seriously,
so
so
good.
funny. He's
Just
so
the
funny.
way he drives the van. The van is just like the piece of delivery vehicle too. Um,
Mhm.
And what is it? Surf pizza or
Yeah, something like that.
something super Californian like pizza shop. Yeah, that's all good. Surf Boy Pizza. Um, but this is also like the weakest one, and just they're kind of just like bouncing around, just trying to find 11. But we
Yeah.
know 11's okay for the most part. So it's like, okay, they're going to get there and then they're going to do what?
Yeah.
Because Mike always is on this kind of weird, like tunnel vision 11 quest. And it's Will trying to like be his friend, reel him in a little bit.
Can we take a moment? Does Will want to be more than a friend with Mike?
Could be.
I was getting some major like Will cares a little more about their friendship, I think, than maybe Mike does, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, he's always been that way about Mike. Like they've always been best friends out of the four of the original
Yeah.
friends. Yeah, could be. Um, I could see it.
Yeah.
But I mean, but Mike's such a dork. Like he's so dumb. Like
Yeah, and oblivious to everything.
yeah, but it's almost like purposeful. He pretends to be an idiot so that somehow protects him from making mistakes, but really like that's the mistake in itself. Because
Mm.
even the whole like the way he treated Will when they got off the plane, he's like, oh, oh hey, and then just like follows 11. Like it was just so awkward and painful.
Yeah.
And I like Will way more than I like Mike. Mike's just painful to be
Yeah.
around.
Yeah. I feel that because I think that's your just general feeling towards Mike in life.
They also
Mike's,
do,
I should say, plural.
yeah,
Me,
yeah,
general disdain.
yeah. General disdain for Mike's. I know too many of them. But they also have some really weird, crazy stuff that happens to them, like the military shooting their house to the ground
Dude,
while they're in it.
that was actually like a surprisingly cool scene, like
It,
just a real actiony
yeah.
like set piece there.
Except they like all survive and no one got shot, except for like the one
M-
cop.
Miraculously, yes.
Miraculously. And they weren't doing anything special, and they're coming in all doors. Like these are
Just
some dumb
shooting
military
machine
people.
guns through drywall and no one's catching any bullets.
Yeah. So there's that. Then they just bury the dead cop body in this like junkyard
Yeah.
pit in the middle of the desert.
Again, Argyle coming
Argyle making
through trying to make the headstone. And Jonathan is so funny. He's like, "Are you like for real? We just buried a dead body and you want to leave the names of the people who put him here? That's the whole point of us hiding the body
yeah.
so no one knows it's here."
Then the pen thing was weird. Um,
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, he handed me that pen. I got it. It must be
Yeah.
something in the pen." I'm like, "Oh, man,
Yeah,
really?"
well, it's like, well, and the headstone makes sense because then they're like, he's trying to use the pen's
Yep.
not writing. Well, why the heck isn't the pen writing? Oh, because there must be a secret note inside, of course. But this leads us to like one of my probably my favorite part of this arc is when they go to Utah to Dustin's girlfriend's house
Yeah,
to
Susie.
try to get her help to figure out the location of this phone number that's really dialing into like an internet
What?
connection.
So what's the situation at that house?
They're
What's going on there?
Mormons,
They're Mormon. Isn't it?
and well,
There's
she's
no
been
wives.
that we see,
Yeah. It's
but
just
yeah,
like the billion
there's like
kids.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like 20 kids being crazy, cheaper by the dozen, Mormon edition. Um, and yeah, it's just funny. Like Argyle
Yeah.
gets entranced by Susie's older sister.
So good.
um, Susie's trolling the boys about IP addresses and not being able to work a printer, which
What's the
I thought was
internet?
hilarious. Yeah, the whole internet thing is hilarious. But they're like, Mike's like, "Can you print this?" And she's like, "No, my capabilities stop at tracing down IP addresses." But yeah, the main focus obviously is Eleven's development here,
Mhm.
and Brenner's seemingly like, well, obviously borderline slash
Dude sus.
mild to moderate abuse of children. But also, like, he kind of cares. But does he just care about 11? Like,
Right.
yeah, does he just care about furthering his, findings and research or whatever? At this
I
point of
mean,
the
one
show,
guy,
he cares
one,
about restoring and like saving the world because he is kind of understanding what's happening. But
yeah, but also that um, one gets imprisoned. So like, you know, obviously one was either too powerful or just was not the right mixture of capabilities they
mhm,
were looking for. I think he was just too powerful, so they just like
yeah,
sedated his powers and chipped him and made
yeah,
him work.
I guess that's better than just like killing him Game of Thrones style.
Yeah. Well, at the
Or I
same time,
guess,
like,
yeah,
ultimately, he was always infatuated with 11, and there was just something about, like, the composition of 11 and, like, her powers, and there's something about her that we don't know yet,
yeah,
why she was the one that ultimately 1 was obviously the most powerful one, and there's just, like, these variations
yeah.
up into till her. There was ones after her, higher numbers. There had to have been, 'cause there was, like, 14 kids in that lineup at times, I felt.
Yeah, and there were what looked like either similar or even
Older,
possibly
younger.
younger people
Yeah.
than 11, which would
Had a
mean
nice
there would
Brady
be more.
Bunch
Yeah, yeah.
slant going on.
But towards the end, as she tries to help, or Vecna one tries to help her escape, but really he just kind of like tricks her into getting the
Chip.
suppressor out of his neck, and then they were both going to. I guess he wasn't really tricking her. He genuinely wanted to escape with her and
Think?
realized her power, right? Because he goes and when they get caught, he goes and just massacres everyone. That's what the massacre from the start of the season is. And when she comes and sees what happens, he's like, "All right, let's get out of here." And she's like, I cannot do that because that's really messed up."
Right, but the whole act of, like, just saving her, that was fake. He never
Yeah, no,
intended
I
for that
think
to
he
be the
was,
extent of it,
yeah,
yeah.
it was a self-motivated thing, but also he like wasn't against 11 and
Right.
realized her power, and he's like, We could be this together, right? Like, because we're both very powerful."
His father
Um,
and son, we can rule the okay.
yeah, right. So like in between the flashbacks and then like the Vecna just telling 11 what's going on, like you were saying, the mixed of like the flashbacks and the present conversations between 11 and Vecna are happening. We get the whole like 10-minute explanation of how Vecna became who he was.
He's going for it.
But then we see like, the duel of the numbers here. Um, and 11 just like obliterates him and into a whole new dimension. um, but that's where, we get the first, that's the first rift, right? The portal in the lab.
The
So we
big
see the
boy.
origin here of this. But like Nick has maybe unintentionally speculated, like this could be the origin of the entire plot of the Upside Down and Vecna himself, the leader of the Upside Down, the original Upside Downer. I don't know what we would call
It's
them.
the whole chicken before the egg thing. It's like, was Vecna first and then came the Upside Down, or or
Yeah,
is the Upside Down already a place?
yeah, and he just kind of
Got
was
thrown there.
formed by it, or like him being in this weird alternate dimension under Hawkins, then made it into what it is. No one knows. We'll find out. But we do know that this is the start of both, like the origin story of the villain and the Upside Down, as far as we know. So it was really cool as the season went along to get more insight into things that we've been seeing and hearing and dealing with for the last 3 seasons, which I was a fan of. But yeah, do you have any like big takeaways or like things you are expecting or hoping to see in episodes 8 and 9?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely built up to be big movie. Like, I get the episode lengths because if they were able to do what they did with these lengths and like a season format of like 7 episodes, totally makes sense to have like a 2.5 hour episode as the finale. Um, Yeah, I just want some fundamental answers, right, around Vecna, the Upside Down, the real big obvious stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but also how the adults tie back in here, up in Russia. How do they get back into the action? And I think that's what the episode 8 will probably be on. And then there's going to be the,
Yeah. Do
the
you wanna
final
know
boss.
the episode titles, or is
Mm,
that too much of a potential spoiler?
nah, no
Yeah.
thanks.
Um, yeah, volume 2 or part 2, comes out July 1st, so right around the corner. So we won't be waiting too long to get these answers, but,
Not at all. Which I
you know
like. I don't like the whole half a year between parts.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like
for sure.
this.
Uh, so, speaking of the, like, 2.5 hour length of the season finale, I was talking with BioCiv, and he was, shocked that there's a season 5 and was like,
Me too.
"Well, what's the point of there being, like, a 2.5 hour season finale if
Yeah,
there's just gonna be another season," you know?
it's crazy.
And, like, I think did you also bring up something along those lines?
One, I didn't know I thought this was the end. Thinking that like that's like the big banger at the end is the 2.5 hour. And the reason this whole season is so big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this entire season's huge. So to me, once again, I'm just like confounded that they set such a precedent to have a season. Well, like season 5 isn't just gonna be a bunch of 40 minute episodes at this point.
Yeah,
That would
they're
be
all
kind of
gonna
dumb.
be 2.5 hours long.
Right. So yeah, because I didn't know that till after watching the whole season or this whole first part, and I was just like, "So this is a thing now?" Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought they were going out
exactly.
on a bang on the 4th and
Yeah,
final
no,
season,
and that's where I'm a little confused.
especially with the way everything's playing out. Like, this
Yeah,
seems like the end,
exactly, especially if Vecna is, like, who we're theorizing he is,
right?
right? If he's, like, the big bad of the Upside Down, and you have a 2 like well, in the last 2 episodes, you have basically 4 hours of story, right, in 2
Yes.
episodes. So it would be silly if we spend 4 hours and Vecna is not defeated. Like, how can
Right.
you explain the episode lengths if there's not gonna be a conclusion, a big conclusion to this Vecna storyline?
And I
And
and I
if
was go ahead.
no, go ahead. You go first 'cause
No,
that'll trail into something else.
no, and I was gonna say this earlier, in terms of the reason this season also is so good because for the first time, and this is hard for series to do, like season 1, classic, right? You love it. Season 4, like 2 and 3 at this point are the slump, right? They're good, yeah, but um this season just came back in such a big way. They did so many huge things. Every episode's huge. So it's just weird that it's like they have to now top this very awesome season
Yeah,
with an awkward season 5. We like our four season series here at
yeah.
Showboys. So I'm that's just part of my like there's a season 5 that really hurts my brain because they have to top this. They have to make
Yeah,
all the episodes that long. It really confused me about the epic 2.5 hour ending to this one. So there's just so
yeah.
many things I was like, okay, so they have to do what they just did again and hope it's as good, if not try to make it better. Like
Yeah,
it's
because
just
it's
crazy.
gonna really be a black eye on the series if season 5
5 just
is
sucks.
not at least on par with 4. Like,
Right.
how you gonna end after I mean, this would have been a ter I mean, again, we haven't seen the final 2 episodes of the season, so, it could open up a whole other can of worms that, totally needs a 5th season. But, like, up to where we are kind of theorizing the season is going to go and these storylines are gonna go, like, this should have been it. Like, how do
Yeah.
you like
Well, we say this, but I also think like Game of Thrones season 6 is like the ending for me. So like that's like the peak. So then they had two more
Yeah,
seasons. So this could easily have two more seasons, but it's just gonna always for now, from our perspective now, 4 is like stamped in my mind as like, boom, there's like the
Mhm.
encapsulation of like what you watch this show for. Like this is what you're watching to get to. After
Yeah.
that, whatever. Like do what you will.
Yeah. Oh man, it's just like I just don't understand how they could like what the need for 4 hours across 2 episodes if you're going to continue the story, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my concern. That's my big worry. Is I mean, we're not even we still have these 2 episodes. So again, this could totally be proven wrong in a couple weeks. But yeah, it's just like if you're going to wrap up this Vecna storyline, it's shaping out that he is like the cause, the effect, the reason the upside down exists, the whole reason that there are portals being opened. Like if they can't defeat him, like what are they going to do in 4 hours if they don't conclude Vecna?
I was just thinking that like like they have to defeat him. Like it would
Yeah,
be really weird if they don't at
yeah.
this point.
But then if they do, then like presumably that solves the upside down problem. So what the heck do you do in season 5?
I'm
Like
still in
what's the
doubt that
point?
there is a season 5. I think it's a trick.
No, they've talked about it because they've gone on record saying there's going to be a time jump because having
Oh,
all
that's
these
right.
older kids play young high school kids probably is going to become less believable.
So okay, thanks for bringing that up because I did see that there is going to be a time jump. So that makes me even more sad because if they have to defeat Vecna in this season, Vecna's not the main bad guy because
Yeah,
unless Vecna comes back 5 years later when they're all
maybe
older.
maybe Eddie was foreshadowing.
Ooh, there it is. Yeah, because he's like, guess who's back? He's
Back
gonna lose an
again.
eye.
I'm just kidding.
He's gonna lose an eye and
Yep,
like an arm or whatever Vecna was missing when they pieced it together. Whoa.
there you go. Called it here. That's the only saving grace is if it all comes back to Eddie.
It's got to come back to Vecna and Eddie.
Yeah. So that kind of wraps up our reaction and our recap and thoughts on season 4. We did have some answer the boys replies, so let's go through there.
ATBs.
Rachel's Holiday, long time standing member of the Showboys Discord community. We always love her input. She's awesome. She's also been on an episode of Showboys. Go check it out as a Star Trek. I don't remember the episode number, but it's out there. She says this season of Stranger Things has been my favorite one so far. In my opinion, they've done a really incredible job of growing with the actors and telling a cohesive story across the seasons. I'm also super impressed by the ability of the writers to tell a story that features kids, but doesn't feel kiddish, but also feels age appropriate for the types of hijinks teenagers would get up to. I'll be honest, my favorite character is probably Murray. Can't argue with that. That's the comic relief he provides is a delight. Yes, I laughed so hard, and like him and Joyce are just like a hoot together. And then you add Yuri
Joyce
and
the Who.
Murray. Man, yeah, it's
Well,
great stuff.
it reminds me of just like Honey I Shrunk the Kids, like adults in those movies. You know what I mean? Like they're just
Yes, dude, that's
goofy.
2 weeks in a row. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids has been brought up on Showboy.
Damn. Gotta watch it
French
now.
class, I get it. Yeah, and I think that's what makes this show so fun to watch is like it does have like this season especially. We have a lot of dark moments, we have a lot of like horror filled moments, but also like it is still kind of like a lighthearted fun like funny show too.
Yeah.
They do a really good job of interweaving between all of those three like vibes throughout this series.
And that's why I only ever call out the weird, unrealistic things that happen in the show because it doesn't take itself too seriously to where it's like it
Yeah.
doesn't break the show because it's like, well, no, of course Joyce and Murray get to Russia to
Right.
save
Yeah.
Hopper, who went through a portal wormhole thing to get the Russian. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
count it
Of course.
against the
Right.
show. Things like that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the entire show is based off of like a D&D campaign. So
Yeah.
what else would you expect?
Vecna.
She goes on to say, my favorite character arc is Max's. Yeah, what a weird word to say in possession there. Her growth over season 3 and 4 has been awesome, and I would have to agree. We didn't talk about her kind of snapping out of her funk with Lucas there towards the end. There's like a really sweet moment as they're walking through the woods in the lake portal scene where he's basically like, I'm here, I hear you, I see you, like you just have to quit like shutting yourself off, like we're all here for you. And that was a very touching moment. And yeah, you're onto something there with her growth for sure. She's turning out to be a very important and strong character in the crew here.
Strong.
2 more little blurbs here from Rachel. She says, as an in the weeds moment, how the Bingham family is portrayed is spot on for a Utah Mormon family in any era. I have been in Eden's shoes and felt that Audrey Holcomb's portrayal of the oldest girl in a large family was perfect. That's right. We do have a few Mormon defectors in the Discord. So it's a good perspective to have there from Rachel. But yeah, I totally got like a cheaper by the dozen vibe during those scenes. Shout out Beck. It's one of her favorite movies. She also says, as far as what's coming for the exciting conclusion, I'm really excited to see how Hopper, Joyce, and Murray make their escape from the USSR. If the Upside Down will be obliterated, and maybe 11 will help uncover Dr. Brenner's sinister plot. I'm sure there is one. Maybe that's the thing. The Upside Down is just a distraction. And really, season 5 will be dealing with the main villain, and that's Dr. Brenner.
Good call. Because there's way more going on that we're not focusing on here with like the government and Dr. Brenner and like, yeah, that extra layer of stuff that we really haven't revisited this season outside of them just popping back up. Like 11, we're here to help.
Yeah, because so yeah, we have 2 factions of the government, like both vying for 11 for different reasons. And the entire reason the Upside Down exists, presumably, is because of Dr. Brenner's experiments, research, lab stuff. Like the to our knowledge, the only reason that the Upside Down has come to be is due to a fight of 2 like super powered people in the care of Dr. Brenner. It's not like the Upside Down is kind of like an indirect like happenstance of things that were going on.
The way the light bulb stuff work, because there is the one test that he does on them where they have to control the light bulb spinning. He was obviously can realize they're tapping into a power from another dimension. So it must mean that the Upside Down exists in some capacity.
Maybe he's trying to like
before
get
11.
there somehow.
Yeah, so like I think it exists, but I think the extra layer here with Hawkins is when 11 throws Vecna through the portal to the Upside Down. Hawkins is like what you're saying. I think the dates are probably close enough to where that created that version of the Upside Down, like the almost like manifestation, physical form of Upside Down Hawkins.
Yeah, maybe Rachel's onto something here.
Yeah, he's got to come full circle.
Yeah, because he's not a great guy.
No, not really.
I
mean, he's okay, but like he's not great.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll do a good job of painting him in a negative light here in the remaining episodes. Thanks, Rachel. That was a great comment. Let's talk about there. Ugly Kid Joe Cross, he says, wow, 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 wow.
Stellar comment.
Agree. Very much agree with that. And then Ayano Aishi, they say, honestly, haven't seen nor heard of it, which is mildly shocking, but also I could see that being a thing if you don't have Netflix. There are a few like mainstream references here and there, but if you're not in the Netflix realm, I could definitely see this flying under your radar. Hopefully someday you'll check it out because I think it's a pretty good show, fun show. Yeah, it does it for the Answer the Boys section. Thank you guys so much. As always, we appreciate your input and contributions to the show. It always adds a little extra, layer to what we talk about, and I appreciate that. You guys rule. If you're interested, we have a link to our Discord in the episode description. Go ahead, click on it, join it, become a member of the Showboys community. Come hang out with us. We got so many different conversations going on in there all day, every day. Anything from gaming to music to what we're watching to spoiler filled channels where you can like really get into the nitty gritty of shows that you're watching. All kinds of stuff. We have an amazing channel full of gorgeous pictures of clouds, and you do not want to miss out on big clouds. I'm telling you, it's great. Our boy Bim, man, he could probably make some money off some of these cloud pictures he's taken. Yeah, go check it out. Join the Discord. Do you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up here?
Nah, tune next week. We'll be covering in a very similar fashion season 4 of Game of Thrones as part of a Throwback Thursday summer, the long summer.
The long summer of
the
Thrones.
road to the House of Dragon this August.
Yes.
We're having a lot of fun doing that. I am, at least.
Yeah, that's been great. But now that we've wrapped up season 4 of Stranger Things, now my binging must turn to season 4 of Game of Thrones.
Binge away.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Amy, for commenting along. Appreciate it. You need to keep on young Neil for me, please. What a cool turn of events. I mean, who would have thought, right?
Who would have thought?
Young Neil teaches Erica. Like, he is her teacher. That's nuts. She is a student in the school that young Neil works at. That is crazy. Anyways, subscribe here if you enjoyed the episode tonight and you want to be notified whenever we go live here. We also have a gaming YouTube channel, Showboys Gaming. Go over there, check it out. There is usually something being posted at least, every couple days, if not maybe every day. Chad's out there slamming walkthrough videos. Nick's out there just becoming Valheim famous. And I stream a lot of games that eventually land on YouTube. So go check it out. Check out all of our other stuff. Become a patron. We love you guys. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. Enjoy the slamming intro. One of my favorite, pieces of music.
Shout out the newscast.
Oh yes, newscast. That just happened. Go check that out. But yeah, fun fact before we end. The Stranger Things soundtrack is responsible for my deep dive into synthwave and my love of synthwave. So thank you, Duffer Brothers, for making sure the soundtrack is slamming. But anyways, see you guys. Have a great night.
I don't like that sound. It scares me.